I wanted to open up a restaurant at that point, but I didn't have a lot of experience. So in doing that, when I was going into these other restaurants, I would ask them, "Hey, how are you doing this? Hey, why are you doing it this way? Hey," just little things, little tips and tricks that you as a restaurant owner, you really don't get that. You don't get to see what other people are doing.
Hey everybody, welcome to Revolt Breakaway by Revolt Tech. My name is Lane Taylor and I am not your host. Joe Costanzo is your host, but I get to be here for episode 1 to talk to Joe, ask him some questions. I've been on the back end helping him get this show off of the ground. And I'm really excited to bring Joe to you to share with him what he wants this show to be, Revolt Breakaway. What can you get from the show? What lessons, what strategies, what successes from the show? And so with that, I'm excited to officially kick off Revolt Breakaway. And it's going to be hosted by the next person you're going to hear from, Joe Costanzo. He's a seasoned entrepreneur with 20 years of experience in the restaurant industry and the owner of multiple successful concepts. This podcast delivers actionable insights, creative strategies, and real-world stories. So, Joe, welcome to your show. Welcome to Revolt Breakaway.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks. I guess I shouldn't say thanks for having me because it's technically my show, but yeah, thanks for helping me get it off the ground, and I'm excited to see where this takes us.
Exactly. So Revolt Breakaway, when you think about that with your 20 plus years experience, the information, what you want to share, the value that you want to share, why this podcast, why do you want to get this out? What are some of things that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, man, I think it's just not necessarily giving back, but just having a place that we can bring different ideas and different strategies to retail and restaurant owners. So just little things. Some profit ideas. Maybe interviewing some people that I've known over the years that started small and were able to grow to multi locations, and just some of the people I've gotten to know in the industry that we can talk about things. Again, from increasing profits, from how different places are doing inventory. And one thing I've learned is that every restaurant does everything a little bit different. Not that it's necessarily a bad way or a good way, but I've learned a lot, not only from the restaurant business. I had my own ways, but being in the consulting and the tech side now, I'm in the back of and working with all types of restaurants. So just kind of bringing those together. And then another thing that I'd say I learned is this business, a lot of people get started never having done it before. They might have a great product and they've got a dream of opening a restaurant, and they just jump into it, and they don't have a lot of places to go to and resources on that side. So all of our establishments, we started from the ground up, and there's a lot of things that people think they have to do, like going into massive debt to do this, or buying brand new equipment, and and there's industry standards of, obviously, health won't change. There's industry standards for health. So that obviously isn't going to be different anywhere. But you think that you might have to do that, it's really, starting off, there's really no point in doing it, grow with your brand. And so that's really what I kind of want to bring to the show.
Tell me a little bit about, from your knowledge and your background, the individuals in this industry that you want to connect with and that you want to talk with. Where are they even getting their knowledge? Are they doing it in peer groups? Are they doing it with friends? Like, where do people go to get information right now?
It's not that these stuff isn't there. It's that they probably aren't taking the time to do it, I think, is the biggest thing. So, we've got a lot of customers that, and I'm, I have a lot of like different groups, like Facebook groups and stuff that I'm a part of, and we'll want to share that with them and make sure they do that. But there are some resources out there. You can go to different restaurant trade shows in your state. There's the National Restaurant Trade Show in Chicago. And I'm up there every year. There's always something new, especially with technology. I mean, it's changing daily with technology. But I think it's just making sure that you step to the side and take that time to learn stuff. We as owner operators, and that's what I was in most of my places. It wasn't like I had, we did have a few locations, but I still had a macro view and still had my hands touched on all those businesses when we had those, is just being able to step away and just to be able to learn those things, because you get so busy and you're so worried about what if I'm not there, what if I'm not doing this, instead of kind of passing out to someone else. You as a business owner, you really want to learn how to market and how to have a better product and get your name out there. That's just as important as, if not even more, than you being in the back and the one that's actually mixing the crab cakes or washing dishes. I mean, we all do it. We're not Restaurant owners are not, retail in the same sense, but restaurant owners are not, we sit at a desk and do paperwork. I mean, we are plumbers, we are gas installers, we are janitors, I mean, we are every trick of the trade because we have to be in that industry.
Well, that's a perfect segue with your expertise and your background. I have heard your expertise and your background through the onboarding, through all of us getting this Revolt Breakaway loaded into the system and getting it out to the world. But tell the listeners a little bit about you, Joe, your family, your background, and how you even got into this role of what you're doing.
Yeah, so my wife and I, we met at Florida State in Tallahassee, Florida. I actually, as early as high school, already started a tech background. So I was doing web design and A+ certification for computers back then. And so we met at FSU. Quick fast forward, had a baby, opened a restaurant. We were very young when we did that. I think we had a baby, and within a couple of months of having a baby, we were already starting to open that restaurant. So we had to open that restaurant on a very, shoestring, budget. So that's where a lot of this comes from too, of, it doesn't have to be costly to do this. But anyway, so we slowly opened that, and we wanted a solution, a point of sale solution. And that's kind of how we got segued into the consulting and the point of sale and payments business. Was we were just handwriting tickets back then, and just using a little side terminal credit card machine, and I really wanted a POS. But again, being 21, we were still literally in college while we were doing this, and just having a baby. We couldn't afford, we just needed like a 2 terminal station POS, and just the options that were out there. There were no cloud-based solutions yet. It was, this was the first iPad, I think, had only been out like a year. Was that thick, phone book size iPad. We couldn't afford the options out there, where they're like 15, 20 grand to get started with that. So I really wanted a solution on the iPad, and we came across somebody that it was the first solution to the iPad, and I found it, downloaded the app, reached out to the company, and I already had that, tech networking background anyways. So we kind of mill piece it together. I got a printer, got a network, and just kind of worked with that company to get it going. And then they asked us, because I just took so much interest in it, and I had a restaurant, and there were some other payments integrations and other stuff that we did further down the line with some other payment providers, and that to get some stuff directly integrated. But they saw how much interest I was taking, and they asked if I wanted to become a distributor with them. So we became a distributor with them, and really it just grew organically as we had different restaurant concepts and opened different restaurants. That just kind of grew without really any advertising. It kind of, word kind of got out that we got it integrated with some of these other payment partners, and some of those that were in the local Southeast market were kind of excited that, oh my gosh, we can provide the payments, and you can do this POS, and it's in a lower barrier entry into these businesses that we're already working with. So it kind of just took off like that. And again, both businesses were starting to grow. I mean, we were very successful. Every concept on the restaurant that we had, it was profitable from day one, which, people hear the rumors, that's very hard to do, and especially in any business, but especially the restaurant business, with as much you have to do, and as much money that, they say that you have to lay out for something like that. It just kind of grew more and more. And about 4 years ago, they just both were just getting too busy. Even through COVID, our sales were up 30-40% in the restaurants, and it just was getting a little bit too much that my wife and I had a conversation, and we had to pick one. I couldn't continue to do both. I was, running the restaurants a few days a week, and then the weekends, and I was doing POS stuff and consulting during the week, and it just was starting to take too much of my time up. So yeah, that's when we decided to essentially get out of the restaurant business. At that point, we had 4 kids, and and a couple of different concepts going at the time. So, kept us definitely really busy. We also homeschool the kids. So again, just very busy life, and we just kind of had to pray about it and just make a decision on what we wanted and needed to do. And so we were just led to do this full time, and sell the restaurants and get out of that side. But yeah, I mean, I miss it to a certain extent, but I did my time, I guess I could say.
Yeah, you did your time, and now you are building Revolt Tech. You are providing value back to the community and what you want to share. So with that being said, at the end of the day, if someone tunes into Revolt Breakaway, what are they going to walk away with? What do you want them to walk away with? What's your hope and prayer for what this is going to become for your audience?
I think the biggest thing is going to be, just adding more value to your business, whether that's profit. I think profit is obviously the number one thing, but just learning different things of what different people are doing. Like I said, I always kind of joke a little bit. I've learned more from the restaurant business in the tech side, just because, and consulting side, because I'm actually going into the different restaurants. Like, yeah, I was one of those restaurant owners, and I kind of did it side by side. Like I was saying, for 10 plus years, I had both businesses. So I was running my restaurant, and I had the idea of, or I had the implementation of those things came from some of the places I had worked for before, some reading, but also just because I had never done it before. I had always wanted to open a restaurant before. I mean, I was only 21, but anyways, I wanted to open a restaurant at that point, but I didn't have a lot of experience. So in doing that, when I was going into these other restaurants, I would ask them, "Hey, how are you doing this? Hey, why are you doing it this way? Hey, just little things, little tips and tricks that you as a restaurant owner, you really don't get that. You don't get to see what other people are doing. So I really think it's just like, just value added. Like, why are you placing your menu item on your menu this way? And why is it have this font? And why are the prices done this way? And why is there a box around it? Inventory. Why maybe not inventory, but like profit and food costing. Maybe why you should focus on, the profitability on an item as opposed to the food cost on an item. In the restaurant industry, that there's a standard that food cost needs to be 25%, and that's where it's at. And it's like, well, okay, I can see where that might be a good idea, but if I'm selling a burger for $10 and my food cost is 20%, 25%, okay, I'm making, 750, $8 on that. Well, what if I sell a $50 steak and my food cost is 50%? Would you rather have the $25, or would you rather have the $8? So it's just a different way of looking at things, and just kind of maybe challenging some of the myths that are out there. It's like restaurateurs, like, and retail places, like, oh, I do it this way just because that's the only way I know, and because I was told that it has to be done that way. So
That's exciting. And what's been cool is this has been a newer, I will say, vertical that I've had the honor to launch a podcast and hear background stories and hear stories like this. And so it's not one that you get to hear every single day. So now it's funny. Joe and I, people, if you're listening to this, we actually live in the same area, which is wild to think about because we live in a very small area in Florida. And now that the restaurants are around here, I know that Joe and Revolt Tech works with some of the businesses. And so like I'm in there and I'm like looking at some of the stuff that Revolt maybe has done or Joe's consulted with. And so this has been really cool. Joe, any parting words for anyone that you may be listening to this? Anything that you would like to say kind of as we land the plane here of this show of the pilot episode?
no, nothing. I mean, I think we kind of covered a good amount. I'm definitely excited to do this. I've been wanting to do this for a couple of years now, but it's just to, actually sit down and find the people to get on these calls and to add value to the people that are going to tune in. So I'm really excited about that, and happy that I'm finally taking the time to sit down and just sit down and just do it.
Incredible. Incredible. Joe, well, this has been fun. I'm excited to see episode 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and beyond. And you will be in this hosting chair. I will not be on future episodes unless you want me to come on, of course, and do anything. Of course, the invite, I would be happy to do that. But with that being said, guys, before you head out of here, there's just a couple of things. If you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify or YouTube, make sure you go and like and subscribe so you know when future episodes come out. Make sure you go and give some comments on the podcast if you want to help Joe out and get this message out. And then if you want to learn more about Revolt Tech, and Joe's business, make sure to visit revolttech.com. That's REVOLTEK.com. Make sure to head over there, like and subscribe to the show. And with that, Joe, Pilot 1, Episode 1, officially in the books. Excited for Episode 2 and 3. And we will see you next time. Joe will see you next time on Revolt Breakaway.
Thanks, Lane. Appreciate it.